question. So, when you were like going way back, when you were getting out of college, you had your sights set on your life. Initially, I imagine it wasn't that I'm going to be a home warranty. What was your like initial like dream? Like, I want to become this.
Right.
What was that for you? In like a couple sentences.
Oh boy, I that's a good question. I have to remember what I wanted to be when I grew up, but there was no home warranty degree at Ohio University. I've got a communications degree, and I probably wanted to be a golfer, and I wanted to be. I figured I'd be in sales and marketing in some aspect. My dad was in advertising and creative, and so while I wouldn't say that home warranties are creative, we've got terms and conditions, and we live by those terms and conditions. I think I bring a creative element to it and make sure that we live by them, not die by them, if that makes sense. So something that would allow me to take advantage of my creativity. But I did not go running to home warranties. It was kind of I followed a boss. Just to give you about 25 years ago, give or take, I went to work for a business that owned the real estate book and Apartment Finder and other real estate oriented publications here in Ohio and around the country. And my job was to sell that advertising. And as that market shifted, as the product, which in the case of real estate was the listings, as those became made available for showing, so to speak, and advertising on the internet, the print publications started to dry up a little bit. Well, I had a boss, smart boss. He knew things before I did. And so while I was still doing well, he saw the writing on the wall. And he was recruited by a home warranty company, and he left to go work for them, and he immediately reached out to me and said, "Don't worry, I'll be in touch about a job for you in about a month." And so I went to...
So that's how you got started?
So that's how I started.
It's very interesting. Very rarely, I think, anybody would say, I knew exactly what I was going to do, and then I got there. Usually, life leads you in ways where you don't expect, and then it ends up being a lot of times better than you initially planned for.
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, I've been very fortunate that I've kind of followed a path, and I wanted to follow my mentor. He was a great guy, a great guy, right? My boss, yeah.
And you still work with him?
Well, we both still work in the industry. Now we've gone in different directions, but only because of just circumstances. Yeah. He's still a friend of mine, and I have another great mentor who we've all worked together. It's funny because of the change in the marketplace, the shift from print to the internet caused me to change paths. So did everybody else who did what I did. And a lot of us, for one reason or another, have ended up working for home warranty companies. And so there's an incestuous nature, and a lot of us know each other from over the years. It's kind of funny. And we see each other when we're on the road a lot. One of the things that I get to do is travel around the country for different reasons for my company, and we tend to see each other at those big events nationally, yeah.
Since real estate's so people-based, so relationship-driven, what would be your one piece of advice or insight for, especially whether it's a young entrepreneur, a young agent, or even anyone going into sales, a piece of advice for building genuine relationships with people? And I know there's a lot of things, like general things you could say, but maybe there's like one very good nugget of advice you have.
Be blunt and honest. I don't feel like I sell my product. I tell about my product, and I don't set false expectations for delivery. And I'm comfortable and confident that by doing that, I will succeed any expectations that I have for myself, as opposed to just worrying about selling something today.
Mm-hmm. So basically, you're just worried. You're just being open and honest about what you do.
Yeah.
And if that works and that's relevant to a certain person, then they'll end up buying it. But if it's not, you're not going to push it on and try to twist perception.
The worst thing I can do is set improper expectations, because I can't deliver on things that are in that regard, and I would fail, and the word spreads very quickly. We have a in Central Ohio and other places, realtors all talk, and that's their strength is that union that they've created. Well, I want to be a part of the union, and I want to be a part of that community. So, being an honest broker, so to speak, is the best course of action. I work in an industry that is so misunderstood and is sometimes used is negotiated into deals inappropriately, and sometimes home warranties are used to replace good, honest conduct by homeowners and realtors alike. And I think it's my job to make sure that they are educated properly. And if I fail, then that's my fault. So I'm not going to be the guy who is dishonest about what it is we can and will not do. I am not magic. I do not have a unicorn. I wish I did.
What would you, like, in your years of experience in this industry, seeing so many different agents win and lose, and maybe even taking the advice you just shared, what would be one of the biggest factors for success that help agents succeed, that you'd be like, okay, and when you see that in an agent, you're like, that agent's going to be successful if they keep that up? Or what are those things that you saw in agents that really help them become successful?
Well, again, I guess back to that is making sure to set proper expectations. They're dealing with people we're all dealing with people who are very fragile, because they're dealing with the biggest purchase they've ever made in the case of a real estate agent, and then shortly after that purchase, dealing with things that break down when maybe they're at their most vulnerable, where their bank account is at their least filled because all of the money's gone into buying this big house. So we've got to deal with people honestly and set proper expectations. I'm also impressed with realtors who are not afraid to tell me who they are and what they do. And it's amazing.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, I think a lot of I don't think they're embarrassed by it, but I just don't think that they've got good social skills, some of them, and don't walk up and say, "Tom Nichols, damn glad to meet you," or whatever it is. And I'm not afraid about doing that. And I proudly wear on my chest what it is I do and who I do it for. And I make myself available. I think a lot of, I guess back to what you were saying, you said people know me, I'm at the President's Ball, I'm at other events that we see each other at. We're out there mixing it up and making sure that we're in with the crowd that is doing business. I believe a lot of agents maybe utilize technology to a fault and isolate themselves from the masses. Maybe some of them are very successful at it, but I believe that a lot of them fail because they fail to become involved in the community. I think that it's likely that agents that actually know each other before the negotiation begins are more likely to negotiate a positive outcome for everybody.
It is interesting when you point it out, because a lot of the top producers that we also work with, and I see that they're friends, they work together, and they're both doing a lot of business apart from each other, and so they don't look at each other as competitors, and I don't know exactly how that happens in the ins and outs, but somehow it's working out so that they're helping each other. And I think that's pretty incredible in this business.
I'm just thinking about something that I used to do a lot of, and I need to do more of. And now I'm gonna go back to I can't wait for the normal. I used to be very good at going to, say, coffee shops, or better yet, what I do is I would find a target. I'd find a realtor that I wanted to connect with. And usually it was because it was a realtor who was on the other side of a real estate transaction where a user of Choice Home Warranty had ordered a warranty. Well, I'm gonna introduce myself to that other agent. That's how I grow my business. And so I would contact that agent and make an appointment, and I'd say, oh, it's in Dublin. Hey, what's a good coffee shop or place you like to go? Kind of like the reason we're here. and they say, well, I go to Starbucks in Dublin on Polaris, or where Polaris, I don't know, wherever they go.
In Dublin and
in Dublin and Polaris, where it is. And so I say, great, 9 o'clock. We're meeting at 9 o'clock. Well, then I'm gonna find other agents who do business in that area and make appointments and say, I'm going to be at Starbucks on Polaris at 8:30, 8:45, 9:15, 9:30, and I'm going to make appointments all morning at that Starbucks. And I tend to make them in 15-minute increments.
Really? You mean for 15
Very quick. No, I don't. I need longer than that. I talk a lot.
Because I usually do like an hour.
What I find, though, is that if I make them in those 15-minute increments, half of them don't show up anyway. Because not all realtors are professionals. Not all realtors, or sometimes something else comes up and overrides the importance of meeting with the home warranty guy. I can accept that. I know where I am on the list, and it's not at the top. I'm just happy to be on the list, and we can find another time to get together. But I figure if I make those appointments in those 15-minute windows, some folks are going to not show up, and that's okay. But what I'm hoping for is that maybe sometimes the realtors will overlap, the meetings will overlap, and I'll be sitting down with one realtor and another one will walk in. And two things will happen. Maybe I get to introduce two agents who have never met before. And it also appears that I am so busy and so popular that I know everybody. And so maybe that's part of the mythos that has been created, that I know everybody and everybody knows me.
I think you've kind of touched on a very important point that I've seen and it has worked for me as well. A lot of times people think I'm going to network and meet people for my sake, and there's actually another way of doing it, which is you network for other people, which is if you can more so connect people you know with other people you know and create valuable connections for them, that's a lot more beneficial for you.
Absolutely.
Than if you're just out there trying to solicit your own whatever you do.
Yeah, you're right.
And I think that's kind of similar to that. That's very powerful. That's probably maybe the most important thing that could happen at that meeting than even what you discuss about your own home services.
Yeah, and I've also tried to understand that while the folks who tend to order warranties from me are real estate agents who are doing so on behalf of our mutual client, the policyholder. And by the way, I think that's really important. I'm going to digress for a second. I always try and make sure that everybody understands that we have a shared client here. Your client is my client, realtor. And so you're hiring me to do one thing, that's to fix these mechanicals when they break. And so we have a mutual goal of getting them to use us over and over and over again. For you, it's to remember you fondly and list with you again, or tell their sister or their parents or their best friends or their high school teacher, whomever it is in their sphere of influence, that you are the best realtor that has ever existed. And I want the same. We both want the same thing. I want them to renew their warranty, and I want them to tell all of their friends in their neighborhood, their frenemies, I don't really care who, but everybody that they can, about us in a positive light. So always remember that I'm not the enemy. I'm on the same page. We're working for the same thing, which is happy clients, and wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over again. But I've also realized over the course of time that realtors and real estate brokerages are not my only target. It's also ancillary businesses, whether it be visual media or lenders or title companies or the blinds people. We can all work together and conquer the world together.
Is that what it's?
I've
met two people in my life that have said, I want to conquer the world.
I say that to my affiliated friends all the time. Hey, let's work, hey title rep, hey lender, let's work together and conquer this mountain.
That's one way to do it. Another person I knew, they said that what they wanted to accomplish overcoming, like conquering the world, would be to get a monopoly on the oil fields in Middle East and just charge a lot of money for all the oil.
Forget about the oil. They got to put it in big barrel. Let's make the barrels, right, or something like that. So yeah, it's.
Well, speaking of that,
yeah.
What would be some of your dreams or like things that you're working towards, your aspirations? Maybe, and it doesn't have to be business specific.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I mentioned golf a little while ago. I've never been a great golfer, but I've been a pretty decent golfer. But I don't have the passion or time, the desire to commit the time necessary to be a great golfer. And I just don't have that desire to do it anymore. And a few years ago, I started playing tennis, and I have really found a passion in that. And I'm not very good. I'm just your average country club player, but I really love it, and I can't get enough of it. And
you play with Nick. I know he mentioned
yeah,
you play with him.
I do. I do play with some realtors. I belong to a club not too far from where we are. Actually, I belong to 5 different tennis places that have tennis courts. A couple of outdoor, a couple of indoor, and
that's like having 5 different gym
I know.
memberships.
It's kind of a. I followed. The person who got me interested in playing tennis belonged one place, so I joined there. And she said, well, and that was a summer, an outdoor place. She said, well, in the winter we play over here. So I said, okay. So I joined there. I met some people who said, hey, you should join our club. We play at this club in the summer.
How
I said,
much are you
fine.
paying for all these clubs?
I'd rather not go into that. But if anybody needs a warranty. But certainly it's not overly. I can afford it. I'm happy to say.
That's good.
But what I will tell you is nobody else needs to join as many places as I belong to. I've done the testing, and I can tell you unequivocally, it's not the quantity of clubs that you belong to that have anything to do with the quality of the play that is developed. One good facility is all you need. I like the places that I belong to, and I know some people here, I know some people there, and it is nice because they never have to worry about, well, who's going to pay for Tom's bill. I'm already a member there, so maybe that's it. I find myself invited to play tennis a lot, and I'm happy about that.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
What would you say to your younger self when you were just starting out, maybe even back to like 20 years old, right? What would be one piece of advice you would give to your younger self as that younger self's kind of starting out?
It's the same advice I give myself now, and I don't take it enough. It's don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Try new things and get involved, and it's okay to fail. And there are pockets of my life where I take my advice and others' advice who say the same thing, and I go in, I jump in. But then there are some other parts of my life where I don't take that advice.
Do you have an example of like when you did that?
It's so very personal.
Oh.
No, but I'm good at that in my business life. I'm not so good at it in my personal life. I'll put it that way. That's all. I believe it or not, I'm a shy guy. I'm very shy, and I think to some degree or another this outgoing guy that everybody knows in the business world, it's quite frankly, it's devoted to my business world. It's not so good. It's not so good in my personal life.
Oddly enough, I actually kind of know what you mean.
I'm wearing a mask, I think. This is a mask, everybody.
So who is the true Tom? Is it the twin?
I'm a homebody. I don't live for the social scene.
You don't live for the social scene?
I don't live for the social scene, and I have to be pulled out of my shell sometimes. I do it for business because it's what you need to do. It's what I need to do for business, to be blunt. Boy, I'm being very, very, I'm opening up here, but that's the truth of it. And I think there are a lot of folks who are like that.
Well, of course. I mean, I understand what you mean by that
Yeah.
because I would consider myself a pretty not down to earth, but like a more laid back person. Like I'm not very talkative. But if you were to see me in the context of business, I am very talkative.
Yeah.
I meet people all the time. I introduce myself, but it's not like I'm not being genuine when I'm doing that. But at the same time,
Yeah.
I think it's the thing about introvert extrovert. When you're extroverted,
Yeah.
you get a lot of energy from that. But an introvert kind of gets drained by doing that. And they need to kind of draw
Yeah.
back and kind of recoup.
Yeah, I agree with you, and it's not that it's not disingenuous.
Yeah, I know
It's
what you
just
mean.
I think we all have multiple personalities, or at least I know, I guess I do.
Mm-hmm.
And so in my business world, I just know that in order to be successful in the task at hand, that's a component of it. And maybe it's because I do that every day, all day long, that at some point it's time to turn it off, and you need to decompress and get away from it all.
I think
So that maybe is what it is.
Another thing, and this is kind of like a deeper topic, but we as humans are not created to always be at the center of attention.
Yeah.
And I think this is a very, very small part of it, but celebrities and people that are very famous have it on a much bigger scale. We're not created for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that has part of it to do with our nature. Mm-hmm. But that's very interesting.
I think most folks wouldn't believe it, but I don't talk all the time. There are some times.
You guys heard it here first.
I know. Yes, but I'm very blessed to have found a community that by and large has embraced me. There's still a lot of it to explore, and I'm happy to say I work for a great company that is growing, and so that puts that means we do business all over the country, and that opens up a lot of opportunity for me.
Yeah.
And there's 1.7 million agents out there, or whatever it is, and I want to meet all of them. Can you help me with that?
I think this will help a little bit. So, a lot of things we can do, and I've made a lot of good decisions by learning from people that are further ahead from me. Mm-hmm. What would be, if you're willing to share a mistake that you've made and that you kind of look back on and would advise another person to be like, I would have done this differently. It could be anything. It could be like in business, whatever you're willing to share.
Well, in business, I think it is okay to shake hands and walk away from doing business. So not every prospect is a good client, and that goes both ways. And so I have learned over the course of years that everybody should be on trial. Both ways. I mean, I do business. I'll gladly do business with anybody that wants to do business with me. But understand that maybe eventually shaking hands and walking away is the best course of action, and not do business to a fault. And actually, I've introduced clients of mine to other competitors because I think part of my job, I think, is to understand my industry and know this. I am the best salesman for all of my competitors. That's I think my job is to know my competitors' products as well as I know my own. Not because I want to tear them down, but because I want to act as an ambassador for my industry. I mean this sincerely. If I don't come to my clients, my prospects, as an ambassador to the industry and make sure that they have a comfort with what it is that home warranties are, then I don't stand a chance anyway. So I want to make sure that everybody knows what home warranty strengths are and what home warranties weaknesses are in general, and then we can talk about my product.
I think that's very valuable. So essentially what you're saying, to summarize, is the mistake that you wouldn't repeat is if you see that there's not a good fit in business, you cut it off and you give them another solution before problems arise.
Better to do that.
Because if you wait until the problems come, well, then it's kind of too late.
Right, and part of that has been somebody a few years ago asked me to become certified in training. I'm now a certified instructor. I teach CE classes for the real estate industry. And while I have a few classes that I can teach, the one that generally speaking people want to hear about is called Risk Management, Understanding Home Warranties. And it is amazing how many of my clients do not truly understand home warranties. And I have no choice but to teach that class from a neutral location. It's not Tom Nichols Choice Home Warranty Guy, it's Tom Nichols Home Warranty Instructor.
Yeah.
And so I talk about it from that neutral place, and I'm talking about home warranties in the broad sense.
Yeah.
Of course, ultimately I get an opportunity to connect with them from a different place as well, but I've learned so much about the misunderstandings about the home warranty industry through that class, because people ask me questions that just astound me, and and so it's been a great eye-opener for me. And yes, I've learned that it's okay to shake hands and walk away from business opportunity, because in the long run, that's the best. That's the best answer.
I really resonate with what you said, because there are, in every sales position, whether you're an agent, you're doing home warranty, or even in my position where I'm selling marketing services, I've realized you never want to approach from the perspective of thinking everyone's your client or a good client, because it's not always a good fit. Mm-hmm. And I've even had situations where in our company, an agent would come and say, I want to do this video, and it would cost, and I would tell them it costs thousands of dollars, and they want to do it, and then I realized, well, I don't know if this is actually the best fit. I don't think you'll get the result you think you're going to get from it. I don't think we should work together, and I tell it to them that way. Mm-hmm. And any approach to a new client, especially like with home warranty or any sales position, it's important to kind of step aside from what you actually sell and ask, well, is this actually going to help them? Because you can convince them even if it's not the best solution for them, but it'll kind of start showing up in people's conversations later down the road.
Right.
And like you said, honesty is the best way to go about it.
One of the things that I do that I think is a bit unique in my industry is, if you look at any of my marketing material, it's got my cell phone number on there. Nothing that I put out into the marketplace does not have my picture and my phone number and my email on it. And while of course it's maybe not of course, but it is first and foremost designed for the realtor. And then that's marketing material that they can use to educate their clients, talk about our product and say this is something that we're going to offer from the listing side or ask for from the buyer's side. The point is I'm not hiding. I'm right there. There's my name, there's my number, and that means that a lot of people call me before and after the fact, and a lot of realtors just say, I can't explain something, homeowner. Call Tom. And I'm happy to talk to anybody anytime. I'm proud of the fact that while we've been here, my phone has rung a few times. I've got it on buzzer, but I'm confident that there's some realtors who have called me and there's some homeowners who have called me. Some of them are calling me after they bought the house. Some of them haven't bought the house yet, but they've got a question or two. And I'd rather just deal with it directly. I will call these people back whether they left me a voicemail or not, because I'm not afraid. It's a scary thing, but I'm not afraid. I will call them back because I know that the best thing to do is deal with it.
Well, and if you know up front that you've been honest with people and that you've offered them something you genuinely think is useful for them, not just for the sake of the commission, then there is nothing to be afraid of.
That's right.
You were hiding nothing.
And a lot of times agents will give my number out to folks and say, call Tom. Tom will set you up with a warranty. By the end of the conversation, the best answer is to not provide them a warranty, not to sell them a warranty. So I don't know what the percentage is, but probably 10, 15, 20% of the time, that person calls me with the intention of ending the conversation with a warranty being purchased, and through our conversation, my best advice to them is to not get a warranty today, for one reason or another, and I'm okay with that, because I know that I cannot possibly provide them the the product that they think it is that they were calling about, and so better to use that money in a different way.
Do you have a story you could share of someone that had wild expectations or anything like that? Or like any crazy story that like comes to mind of like, wow, I can't believe that just happened?
Oh, I have to. There's certainly a few. Oh, wow. Boy, you put it. I have to think about it. There are probably some that I'm gonna remember after we're done. I will just say this: that there is a big misunderstanding with in our industry about what a home warranty is versus, say, what home insurance is.
Well, I was wondering, part of what I'm sure makes you careful and honest is because of the few bad experiences where like, I don't want to repeat that.
I guess I would say that many years ago, and probably it's happening now or will happen again, when there are times in the industry when homes sit vacant for a long time. And 15 years ago, back in 2008, 9, 10, there were houses that did not sell quickly as they are right now. You know, houses are in contract 20 minutes after maybe it's not happening like that today, but just a month or two ago when it was. But when there are times when there are houses that sit vacant and then people might break into them and steal things, we would get calls about people who hey, I just bought my house and the furnace is gone. Can you come and replace the furnace? There's no furnace. And their expectation is that they bought a house. It should have a furnace in it, and therefore, since there is no furnace or air conditioner or water tank, that we are somehow responsible for that. Well, that's probably a call to the police or to the homeowner's insurance. But we don't replace or fix things that don't exist. And so maybe that's one thing to consider that's a story is people think that we're responsible for houses that don't have any HVAC in them. Yeah, we deal with this a lot too, as people buy or add on to their houses, add wings onto their houses. Sometimes the work that is done is not complete, and the air conditioner is not enlarged or a second one added or whatever, and no ductwork is put in. And then we get a call from homeowners saying, there's no air going into the house, into this part of the house. And we show up and there's actually no ductwork to that part of the house. Well, so get to it.
What do they expect you to do to get
They expect us to be, we warranties fix what's broken.
Yeah.
We don't redesign bad design.
That's funny.
And I understand when homeowners don't understand that, but a lot of times realtors either don't understand that or would prefer to not understand that and make it our problem.
I pass it on to you.
Yeah, who knows? So certainly some crazy stories, but we get a lot of calls about windows and structural integrity of houses that are just not what we do. We handle furnaces and air conditioners and water heaters. That's what we do.
So, as we kind of wrap up, what would be the most influential person in your life that you've looked up to or are looking up to? Well,
my dad, and my dad was a flawed man, as we all are, but he died on my 23rd birthday. So he died. I'm 57 years old. He died when I was graduating from college, but he's still somebody I talk to every day, or more accurately, talks to me every day and reminds me when I'm not doing all I could be doing, or being, or yeah, so he's a voice in my ear all the time. I hope everybody has a relationship with their mom or dad like I have with my mom's still alive, so she's in my ear every day anyway. But I'm surprised that 34 years later, my dad is still such an influence on my life, and to a similar degree, my granddads too. In particular, my mom's dad, Cal. I think about him and every day, and my father every day, and they just remind me to focus on the important things, and so that's the answer to that question. Those are the most important people in my life, influential people in my life. I certainly have some mentors in the business. My boss, it's a guy named Trey Sterling. God, I hope he doesn't watch this. I don't want him to.
Why?
because his ego will be. But he's a great guy. I've told him over and over again that
you don't want him to know that you look up to him.
No, I don't know. I've told him before, and he probably doesn't believe me, but I work for him. He doesn't ever have to worry about me going after his job. I follow him wherever he goes. Actually, we came together from another company. And I have no intention of ever leaving the company I work for as long as he is there. And I'm also happy to say that I also, my other, the other boss I have is the owner of the company that employs me and Trey, and I'm devoted to them. They take care of me, and I will take care of them, and I have no intention of ever going anywhere else. And I mean that sincerely. I want to retire with this company.
That's awesome. What would you say, and this is like a sobering question, but I think it's an important question for everyone. Like, what would you want to be remembered as in your life? And I'm sure that would drive how you treat people on a daily basis.
Yeah. I guess just a nice guy and a good friend.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think you're doing very good at that.
Wow. I could do better.
We all could.
Yeah.
I don't know you too well to know if that's true, but from what I've seen so far, it does seem that's one of the things that really intrigued me. I was like, wow, it seems like a very genuine guy that a lot of people know, and that says a lot because the more people you know, the more times there could be mistakes that could happen, and so.
I screw up on an hourly basis, and all I can do is try and correct the screw up. That's what I try to do, is keep up with my screw ups and correct them.
Well, as we finish up, is there anything else you wanted to share and anyone that was watching or listening?
No, I've really enjoyed this. I really appreciate you taking an interest in me. It's very humbling.
It was a pleasure. I enjoyed it as well. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.